Hello everyone, and welcome back to another lesson. Today we have a topic that is so simple on the surface, but actually confuses so many English learners at every level, and the confusion usually happens at the worst possible time, right when you are meeting someone for the first time.
Yes, and what makes this topic so important is that these two phrases, how are you and how do you do, are two of the very first things people say when they meet someone. Getting them right gives you confidence from the very first second of any conversation.
So today, we are going to break down both of these phrases completely. What they mean, when to use them, how to respond to them, and what mistakes to avoid. Everything you need to use both phrases naturally and confidently.
And we promise this is going to be simple and clear. So let us start right at the beginning. Let's talk about how are you first, because this is the one most learners already know a little about.
Good idea. So in the simplest possible words, what is how are you and when do you use it?
Okay, so how are you is a friendly greeting question. You use it when you already know the person you're talking to. It can be a friend, a classmate, a colleague, a neighbor, someone you have met before. The key point is there's already some familiarity between you and the other person.
So it's not for complete strangers you have never met before in a formal setting. It's for people you already have some kind of connection with.
Exactly. And here's something really important that many learners do not realize at first. How are you is not always a genuine question about your health or your feelings. In everyday casual English, it's often just a greeting. It works more like hello.
Oh yes, this surprises so many learners. When someone says, "How are you?" in passing, they're often not stopping and waiting for a long, detailed answer about your life. They're just greeting you warmly.
Right. So the expected responses to how are you are usually short and positive. Things like, I'm fine, thank you. I'm good, thanks. Not bad, how about you? Pretty good, and you? These are the natural responses.
And then you return the greeting by asking back. How are you becomes a little exchange. How are you? Fine, thanks. And you? Good, thanks. That back and forth is very natural and very common.
Yes, it's a social ritual more than a real question in many situations. You say it, they respond briefly, they ask you back, you respond briefly, and then the actual conversation begins.
Now let's talk about how do you do. This one is where learners get confused because it sounds like it should mean the same thing, but it really doesn't.
So, how do you do is a very formal greeting. You use it specifically when you're meeting someone for the very first time in a formal or professional setting. It's the greeting for first introductions in formal situations.
So, if you're at a formal business event, a professional networking gathering, an important meeting, or any situation where you are being introduced to someone for the first time in a formal way, how do you do is the appropriate greeting.
And here's the part that really surprises people. The correct response to how do you do is how do you do. You say the exact same thing back.
Yes, this is one of the most unusual things about this phrase, and it trips up so many learners. If someone says, "How do you do?" to you, you do not say, "I'm fine, thank you." You simply say, "How do you do?" back to them.
It's not a question looking for an answer about your well-being. It's a formal greeting ritual, a ritual exchange. You say it, they say it back, and that completes the greeting. Then the real conversation begins.
So, to be very clear, how are you is informal and for people you already know. How do you do is formal and specifically for first introductions. How are you expects a short answer about how you are. How do you do expects how do you do back.
That's the clearest summary of the difference. And once you know those two things, you already understand 90% of what you need to know about these phrases.
Now let's talk about the real situations where you would hear and use each of these so our listeners can picture them clearly.
Great idea. So for how are you, picture these situations. You walk into your office in the morning. A colleague passes you in the hallway. They smile and say, "How are you?" You say, "Good, thanks. You?" They say, "Not bad." And you both continue walking. That whole exchange took 5 seconds, and it was completely natural.
Or you bump into a friend you haven't seen in a while. You say, "Hey, how are you?" And they stop, you chat, and they might actually tell you more than just fine, because you're close friends and there's time to talk.
Yes, with close friends, "How are you?" can become a more genuine question, where they share more about their life. The context and the closeness of the relationship determine how much is shared.
And for "how do you do," picture this situation. You're at a formal work event. Your manager introduces you to an important client. The manager says, "I would like you to meet our senior consultant." The client extends their hand and says, "How do you do?" You shake their hand and say, "How do you do?" That exchange is formal, professional, and correct.
Or you're at a formal dinner and you're introduced to someone for the first time. The host says, "Let me introduce you to our guest of honor." The guest says, "How do you do?" You say, "How do you do?" Brief, formal, correct.
And after that exchange, the conversation moves on to something more specific. "How do you do" is just the opening door, not the whole conversation.
And it's worth noting that "how do you do" is more common in British English than in American English. In American English, formal first meetings might just use "nice to meet you" or "it's a pleasure to meet you" instead.
That's such an important point. In American English, "how do you do" is quite rare in everyday life. "Nice to meet you" is much more common, even in formal American settings.
So if you're learning British English or you work in international business where British English is common, knowing "how do you do" is very useful. If you're focused on American English, "nice to meet you" will serve you better in formal first meetings.
Either way, understanding both phrases and when each is appropriate gives you flexibility and confidence in any English-speaking situation.
Now, let's talk about the mistakes, because this is where learning gets locked in.
The biggest and most common mistake is responding to "how do you do" with "I'm fine, thank you." This is a very understandable mistake because learners have been taught that "how are you" is answered with "I'm fine." So when they hear "how do you do," they apply the same response.
But "how do you do" is different. It's not asking about your well-being. It's a formal greeting ritual. The correct response is, "How do you do?" Just mirror it back.
So if you ever hear "how do you do," remember, just say "how do you do" back. Do not say "I'm fine." Do not say "I'm doing well." Just "how do you do?" The second common mistake is using "how do you do" with friends or in casual situations. Some learners think it sounds more polite or more educated, so they use it with everyone. But using "how do you do" with a friend or in a casual setting actually sounds very strange and stiff.
Imagine your friend calls you on the phone and instead of saying, "Hey, how are you?" you say, "How do you do?" Your friend would find that very odd and probably laugh. It does not fit the casual, friendly context at all.
Right. Formality has its place. "How do you do" belongs in formal first introductions only. Outside of that, it sounds out of place.
The third mistake is using "how are you" with complete strangers in very formal settings. If you are being formally introduced to someone for the first time in a professional context, and you say, "How are you?" it can sound a little too casual or familiar.
In that situation, "how do you do" or "nice to meet you" or "it is a pleasure to meet you" are all more appropriate. They match the formality of the situation better.
The fourth mistake is not returning the greeting. In English, when someone asks, "How are you?" it's expected that you will ask back. If someone says, "How are you?" and you just say, "Fine," and say nothing else, it can feel a little abrupt or unfriendly.
Always return the question. "Fine, thanks. And you?" "Good, thanks. How about you?" These little returns keep the conversation warm and balanced. They show you're engaged and friendly.
And A fifth mistake worth mentioning, some learners answer, "How are you?" with a very long and detailed answer, even in a quick passing greeting. If someone asks, "How are you?" while walking past you, a very long answer about your week can feel awkward.
Read the situation. If someone is passing you quickly, it's a passing greeting. Give a short, warm answer. If someone is sitting down with you and genuinely asking, you can share more. Context always guides how much to say.
Now let's look at some other natural responses to "How are you?" because fine and good are not the only options. Knowing a variety of responses makes you sound much more natural.
Yes, some natural everyday responses to "How are you?" include "Not bad, thank you," "Pretty good, thanks," "Doing well, thank you," "Couldn't be better," "Same as always," "A bit tired but good," "Not too bad, and you?"
All of those sound natural in conversation, and you can mix and match them depending on how you actually feel and how casual the situation is.
And some natural ways to ask back include, "And you? How about you? What about yourself? How are you doing?" All of these work as natural follow-ups.
Now, let me ask you something. Is there any situation where "How do you do?" is used outside of a formal first meeting?
Honestly, in modern everyday English, "How do you do?" is almost exclusively used in formal first introduction situations. It's not common in casual conversation at all. Some older British speakers might use it a little more broadly, but for learners, the safe rule is to keep it for formal first introductions only.
That's such helpful advice. Keep "How do you do?" for formal first meetings only, use "How are you?" for everyone you already know, and use "Nice to meet you" or "It's a pleasure to meet you" as safe alternatives in formal first introductions, especially in American English contexts.
And one more thing worth saying, a warm smile and good eye contact go a long way with any greeting. The words matter, but how you deliver them matters just as much.
So true. A confident smile while saying "How are you?" makes the whole exchange feel natural and genuine. Your body language and warmth are part of the greeting too.
Let's do a quick practice round so everyone can test themselves.
Perfect. First situation, you see your classmate at the start of the day. What do you say?
How are you? Because this is someone you already know and it's a casual, familiar setting. How are you is perfect.
Second situation, you're at a formal professional event and your colleague introduces you to a senior executive you've never met before. The executive says, "How do you do?" What do you say?
How do you do? You mirror it back. That's the correct and natural response in this formal first introduction.
Third situation, you pass your neighbor quickly in the street and they smile and say, "How are you?" You're both in a hurry. What's the best response?
Fine, thanks. And you? Or, not bad, you? Short, warm, and appropriate for a quick passing greeting. You don't need to stop and give a long answer.
Fourth situation, a friend you haven't seen in months calls you. What do you ask after saying hello?
How are you? And in this case, since you're close friends and have time to catch up, your friend might actually share more than just fine. How are you here is more genuine because of the closeness and the time you have.
Great. 4 situations handled naturally and correctly. Listeners, go back and try each one yourself before listening to the answers. Think about the context each time. Who are you talking to? How formal is the situation? Have you met them before?
Those 3 questions will guide you to the right greeting almost every single time. Who? How formal? And have you met before?
Let's close with a final, clear summary of everything we covered today.
So, how are you is a warm, informal greeting. You use it with people you already know. Friends, colleagues, classmates, neighbors, family. It can be a genuine question or just a friendly social greeting, depending on the situation and the closeness of the relationship.
The natural responses to "How are you?" are short and positive. Fine thanks, good thanks, not bad, pretty good, and always return the question with "and you" or "how about you?"
How do you do is a formal greeting used specifically when meeting someone for the very first time in a formal or professional setting. The correct response to how do you do is how do you do. You mirror it back. It's not answered with "I'm fine" or "I'm doing well."
How do you do is more common in British English. In American English, "nice to meet you" or "it's a pleasure to meet you" are more common for formal first introductions and are perfectly appropriate alternatives.
And finally, common mistakes to avoid. Responding to "how do you do" with "I'm fine," using how do you do in casual or familiar settings, not returning the how are you greeting, giving too long an answer to a quick passing greeting, and using how are you in very formal first introductions.
Context is everything with greetings. Who you are talking to, how formal the situation is, and whether you have met before are the three things that guide your choice every single time.
And remember that greetings are the very first impression you make in any conversation. Getting them right gives you confidence and makes the other person feel comfortable with you right from the start.
You have all done a wonderful job listening and learning today. This topic might seem small, but it makes a real difference in how natural and confident you sound in English from the very first words of any conversation.
Thank you so much for being here with us today and for choosing to invest in your English. Every lesson you complete is a step closer to the confident, fluent English speaker you are becoming.
Thank you so much for watching English Learner classes. We truly appreciate every single one of you who shows up to learn with us. Don't forget to subscribe to English Learner classes for more easy and practical English lessons just like this one. Keep learning, keep improving, and we'll see you in the next lesson.